right, welcome in the NBA Cup Week 2 off and running, and we have got you covered here on the NBA Tip-Off Show as we got some interesting matchups here tonight in the association. We're going to hear from the contrarian gods. We're going to talk about a total. We're going to have a SGP, which, by the way, has been pretty damn profitable if you've been paying attention here with the one and only Andy Lang in the house. He's joining us again today with another same game parlay for you in one of these NBA games. But interesting matchups here. Double R1L, Steve Merrill in the house. He too is ready to tackle some of these games. And the contrarian gods, Steve, more than anything else, interestingly enough, have focused in on what used to be last year. This pick made a whole lot of sense because when it came to the Milwaukee Bucks and the Indiana Pacers, boy, the Pacers, you know, they kind of ran circles around Milwaukee and gave them all sorts of fits. They have been a very uneven team so far this year, Indiana. Halliburton hasn't really got going. We know Milwaukee is a mess against the number in any in all metrics. So does it make sense at 5.5 points here tonight for two teams that have been anything but status quo? It feels like asking Milwaukee and the contrarian gods asking them to cover this thing by more than a couple of buckets there's no value in it. How do you see it?
Well, first of all, I don't know if the viewers knows, but you said tackle this game. That made me very nervous because someone that's coached 6- and 7-year-olds in basketball, man, we try to prevent the tackling out there. It could get ugly, but this game could get ugly as well. Andy Lang's Indiana Pacers. And, you know, we've talked about, hey, look, they made the finals last year, and Andy mentioned that it was kind of important to them. Don't think it's as important in Milwaukee, right? So, you know, I kind of poo-hoo this whole cup play stuff, but there are certain situations in which maybe it comes into play. And with the two, you know, struggling 6 and 9 squads, we have seen the Pacers take these type of games a little more seriously in the recent years. So Indiana's probably the play for that reason. And if it's contrarian, I guess they're the contrarian side, correct? Because they're the 5.5 point dog. That would work for me. It's a little bit of an extra filter that favors them as well.
Yeah, I mean, Andy, we saw these two last year. I think the games that they played average about 254 points. I think the total here tonight hovering around that 237.5, which is up a little bit here. Obviously, the Bucks at home getting a lot of the public support, but the contrarian gods think that your Pacers, listen, if they show up, and if this thing becomes a shootout, I would favor Indiana in a shootout over Milwaukee last year, this year, next year. What are you thinking?
I think the contrarian gods have not watched my Indiana Pacers play. Listen, they stink right now. There's just no bones about it. They're just not a good basketball team. We're not healthy. There's guys playing. Miles Turner's going to play tonight. He's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
There's guys that are questionable. So the Pacers have the injury bug. Like, make no mistake about it. When they're playing, it's just not 100% healthy. So we're going to do the same game parlay in this game, and I'm going against the contrarian gods here. So we hit our same game parlay last week, which I'm very proud of because as I told you, Joe, somebody got in my ear and said, you know, enough with the short numbers, let's go big. Right. So we hit a 7.5 to 1. So let's do it again. Not only am I taking the Bucks to win, not only am I taking them to cover, I'm taking a Bucks -10. This Pacers team, they're so banged up and they are awful on the road. They have lost 2 in a row on the road by 11 and 17 points, and not to great teams. One of them was to Toronto. Who loses to Toronto by 11 points? My Pacers do. So we're gonna take the alt line there, and then we're gonna take Damian Lillard 4 rebounds or more. This is a great play this entire season. Damian Lillard has hit this in 83% of his games. He's hit it in 5 straight, and he's getting over 8 rebound chances per game. So we're gonna add that in there, and then I'm gonna take Giannis at 35 points. He owns the pace. We have nobody to guard him and slow him down. And I know you're like, well, does anybody have anybody to slow Giannis down? No, not really. But he's done this in 6 out of the last 9 games against the Pacers. And where I would I would caution everyone to look at some of the past games because you're going back to the playoffs when like Giannis was out and hurt and Damian Lillard was out and hurt. So I would caution everyone looking at this game when looking at previous performances. I would throw away that the playoff series last year. I don't think it means much. And shout out to Steve Merrill who used the phrase "poo-hoo." You don't hear that.
Yes,
I did. I did.
Yes,
I didn't even know that.
I think he did, Andy. I think you're correct.
He said,
Wow.
He poo-hoos the tournament, and yeah, Steve, this isn't the same Pacers team that took the tournament serious, and it was a growing experience for them. They're just a mess right now. They will be better. They will be fine, but they need to get healthy. They need to gel, and need to figure out their freaking crunch time lineup and stick with it. That's driving me nuts. Like, who's playing in the fourth quarter? Who's playing in the last 2 minutes? So it's just a messy situation. So I'm fading my Pacers tonight.
Fading the Pacers here tonight. And don't worry if you're just joining us. We'll get that graphic up for you here at the end so you guys can see what his same game parlay looks like. And as you can see there, Milwaukee laying the 10. Going alternate line. Lillard with 4 more rebounds. Giannis 35 or more points at a paltry plus 750. Same game parlay here with Indiana and the Bucks. All right, let's take a look here at a couple of games here, featured matchups tonight that folks are going to be interested in. One of them has to deal with, well, who else? The Denver Nuggets taking on the Dallas Mavericks. Only it won't be the Luka Doncic Dallas Mavericks. It will be. It'll be the Kyrie Irving show, maybe, or the Klay Thompson show, maybe. Bottom line is Jokic is questionable. He's been away from the team for personal reasons, Merrill. I believe the birth of a child is probably pretty personal. But there is some thought that he might be back on the floor here tonight. Obviously, you would love Doncic if you could have him, but that recent injury doesn't make him available. And this line has been stuck at 4 all day. It's not moving. What does that tell you here in this game, if anything?
Tells you that the betting markets and the odds makers are as confused as we are about what's happening in this game. And like I've always said, Joe, as you know, you don't have to play every game, right? But they got to put a number on everything. And this was kind of an easy pass for me tonight, just a scratch-off game for that reason. The line hasn't moved much. In fact, I believe it opened 4 in most spots. There are some 3.5s out there, so it's moved maybe a half a point. But we look at this total, it opened around 230. It's now down to 224.5, 225. So we have seen quite a bit of movement on the under without Doncic. Jokic questionable, obviously. I'll play contrarian here. I'm not using this game tonight. Too much uncertainty for me. But, you know, often when the star players are out, we get more points than expected. And the other guys step up a little faster pace as well. So maybe over 224.5 is worth a little bit of a flyer because that line has dropped almost 6 points.
It's interesting, Barrow, because we have seen, you know, the injury overreactions and who's playing and who's not. I do think that if they can confirm the Joker in, we'll probably start to see this line move. But it's always usually over the top, the move, and all the value is coming back in on the other side there. So I'm wondering, Andy, in this game here tonight, those that we know that are going to be in, especially in Dallas, the points got to go to somebody, right? I mean, who would you focus in on in the prop betting market in this spot for Dallas?
I'm actually going to surprise you here. I'm going under. It's a really low number, but Jaden Hardy, Jaden Hardy under 2.5 assists. He's gone under in 3 out of 14 games this season. He's not playing very many minutes. He's averaging 16 minutes this month. Last month, he only averaged 10.8 minutes. And it's a guy that just doesn't seem to have a whole lot of assist opportunities. Like against New Orleans, he played 19 minutes and he had 12 shots. That's a lot. He's shooting a lot. You don't expect a guy like Jaden Hardy to be the one shooting that much. That you would expect it to be Kyrie or Luka. So not a lot of assists coming his way. So I will take that one. And apologies. Last week, Joe, I made a joke about Jokic being out. I didn't know it was because of the birth of his baby, and several people pointed that out. So my apologies for making a joke and trying to have fun there. So apologies. No fun zone.
Yeah, well, how dare you? How dare you?
No fun zone, Steve.
You said he was checking on a
good thing you
racehorse.
cashed that same
I
game
was not
parlay.
offended by that. I'll
Yes.
say it
What?
again. He's checking on a racehorse. Don't apologize.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Well, I like the way you're
God.
thinking on that
Don't
one
poo-hoo
too as
that
well,
joke. That
Merrill.
was a good joke.
Don't poo-hoo my
correct.
joke.
I can't believe I did
this.
say that now that you pointed that out. I had no clue what you were talking. I was like, I haven't said the word poo-hoo in 10 years. The damn NBA Cup brought it back out of me. That's how I feel.
Yes. I will say this, Big Daddy, I think, is on to something there. He's looking at over 26.5 points for Kyrie. And I think his PRA was 37.5 there. If you think it's going to be all the Kyrie show, maybe Washington as well gets into the mix there. There might be a couple of different props that you can take a look at in that game when it comes to Dallas, or just fade Klay Thompson, because that's always fun too. You can always just watch that go right down the crapper there. Another game coming up here tonight. What can you say about the Clippers? They seem to have figured some things out. Still no Kawhi Leonard, but they are taking on the Sacramento Kings here tonight, and this feels like an interesting spot, Merrill. The Clippers went from not being able to win a game, cover a game in that new building, to all of a sudden now being pretty darn competitive here. Do you like the Clippers tonight to handle business against Sacramento, or is the value here with the Clips at home?
Yeah, catching 3.5 points. Now this line opened around 1.5. It's up to 3.5. Keeps climbing higher. Even though the Clippers are 9-7, Kings 8-7. So on the surface, it does look a little fishy to see them as a dog. Of course, no Kawhi Leonard, but pretty much healthy otherwise. PJ Tucker, only 3 guys on the entire injury report right now. So this is about as healthy as you'll probably see the Clippers minus Kawhi this season. So line's a little strange to me. And you brought up a good point, Joe, about maybe they're starting to turn things around. This is a team that had won 4 straight, and they lost the 3 in a row at OKC and 2 games at Houston. But since returning home, as you mentioned, a perfect 3-0 straight up in ATS, including upsetting the Warriors as a dog. So maybe the betting markets are a little slow to adjust here. And Sacramento's gone just 1-4 against the spread their last 5, just 2-3 straight up. So don't quite understand why this line has gone from 1.5 up to 3.5. You can almost make a case maybe the wrong team is favored.
Yeah, what are you thinking, Andy? I mean, the Kings will get Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan back for this games. Norm Powell was a guy that you were cashing tickets on left and right pretty much all season long. He's out, I believe, with a hamstring, but he dropped 31 when the Clippers beat the Kings, a couple of weeks ago. So what do we think? Pretty good defensive team, the Clippers, but do you trust anybody here to back them?
I got to be honest. I am fascinated by this Paul George, Kawhi Leonard situation. Like, the Clippers are better. They're playing better without those 2 guys, and we didn't understand why Paul George didn't get the contract with the Clippers. He goes to Philly and he's hyperextended the exact same knee twice now already. Like, did the Clippers know something? Are they playing chess here? Or do they want Kawhi Leonard to come back at this point? I'm fascinated by it. I think this is a really great 30 for 30 in a few years. I'm going to go to the Kings. I'm going to take De'Aaron Fox over 1.5 made 3-pointers. He's gone over in 10 out of 15 games, and he's had 3 or more in the last 3 games. It's a little bit juicy. So this is one of those plays where if he hits 3 again tonight, we're not going to see that 1.5 3-pointers. So I want to get in on the 1.5 3-pointers on Fox. And the nice thing about this play, if he goes over, great, we hit it. If he goes under, you're going to get a really nice price next time. So it's one of those, like, it's kind of a win-win situation for me. I'm going to take him tonight. If he hits it, great, we're done. We're going to expect that line to move to 2.5. If it loses, I'm going to come right back to it next game at an even better price. That's my play in this one.
All right, like it here. Not getting a lot of love in the marketplace here, the Clippers, but they certainly have put it together. And to Andy's credit, and to his point, who are we kidding here? This team has actually gotten a whole lot better without the 2 superstars that have moved on, so to speak. And let's face it, we won't see Kawhi until January. Who are we kidding? He ain't coming back. Yeah, super. Yeah, they're super.
Super expensive
right. They are
stars.
super. They are expensive and never there when you need them. It's fantastic. All right, guys, don't forget hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, become part of the WagerTalk TV family. We have a total that we want to go ahead and talk about, our overtime play, and it's gone the other way, and I guess this should shock absolutely nobody. But we thought earlier in the week that if the Sixers were ever going to turn it around, then that Memphis game was a good time to get it starting. They had their big three finally playing, and well, they were there, and well, then they shit the bed, and well, they didn't win that game either, and now they're taking on the Nets. This opened up 6.5. It also opened up 218.5, but the market is laughing at the Sixers being a favorite of anything, and they're also dropping the total down to 213, Merrill. And I can't say I blame them because there's nothing redeeming about this Sixers team. What are we thinking here? Are we in agreement with the big market move? Is there still any value to the under in this one?
Yeah, I fell for that on Wednesday. I had 2 NBA best bets. I cashed with the Warriors Wednesday night, but I missed with the Sixers. And yeah, they all returned until they didn't. They were healthy until they weren't again. So who knows what to do with the Sixers. And right now, as we check the current injury report, Embiid's questionable tonight with the left knee. So that's 50-50. Another one of those situations, where you're kind of trying to have to guess who's going to be out there. Just like that Mavericks game, though, as you said, this total's dropped about 4 to 5 points. So the contrarian in me probably comes in with the over here, over 214. And you get some upside as well as one of those guys does come back and play. So I think this is probably priced about as low as it's going to be. And we actually could get a bump higher. So if you grab the over 214 now, you might end up with some nice closing line value if some of those guys are upgraded.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I don't know. I can't be laying points here with the Sixers, Andy. I know Big Daddy's in the chat room backing Maxey here tonight. Is there anybody that you would focus your attention on in the prop market?
Well, we've done really well betting in the NBA this year. We're 8-2, and a couple of those bets that we've cashed have been on team totals, and specifically both on the Brooklyn Nets. So I'm going to go back to them. This is a team that the books are putting at their team total at like 105.5, like 104.5. And yeah, they're clunky. Yeah, they're a little bit messy. But when they play really good teams, yeah, they get shut out. When they play bad teams, they have enough talent to make these shots and to get open threes. So look at the Brooklyn Nets' last few performances. So they played the New York Knicks twice. They only scored 104, but then they scored 122. And then they lost to Boston, but they scored 114. Their last game against Charlotte, they actually won that game, and they scored 116 points. What is this defensive juggernaut that we've seen from the 76ers? They're 2-12. They just gave up 117 to Memphis. They gave up 106 to your Miami Heat, 114 to Cleveland, 111 to the New York Knicks. Like Embiid, they said he was present at shoot-arounds this morning, but he did not participate. It's kind of the big red flag that he's not going to play. Other than him, who is good on this team defensively? I just don't see it. Brooklyn is fairly healthy. They have a couple guys that are game-time decisions, but it looks like they're probable. I'll take the Brooklyn Nets. This Philadelphia team is just an absolute fade at this point. Like bad karma, juju around them, whatever it is. There are injuries galore. Embiid's probably not going to play tonight. So, yeah, give me the Nets over 105.5. I would love to take the over in this game because the Nets, the last 5 games, are the worst team defensive rating, but they've played some really good teams. So I'm just going to stick with the Nets over 105.5.
All right, sticking with the Nets over that team total 105.5. Yeah, I would look to fade the Sixers every chance that we get here. Ave Cash asking, is Max even playing full minutes tonight? Probably not. This whole team appears to hate one another. So I would look to back nothing and nobody on it. And I can't blame them because most people in Philadelphia hate them too. So they're pretty good to go on that. And that is definitely confirmed. Dan has just confirmed that. So good to go there. We do have a couple of best bets we want to get to. And then you guys have dropped questions about a couple of games going on here tonight outside of the ones we just spoke about. So I will let Steve Merrill drop a best bet on us here and tell us exactly what he's got locked and loaded over at WagerTalk.com here this weekend.
Yeah, I'll use a free play in the Atlanta-Chicago game here in a second. We haven't talked about that one yet tonight, so let's focus on that in a moment. A quick reminder, This is a great time to be an All Sports All Access subscriber. We got college and pro football, college and pro basketball, 4 major sports going. The only one missing is baseball, but that'll be back in a few months, and I want 100 units in baseball this year already. In fact, I look back over the last 365 days and nights, a calendar year ago, we're up 170 units. That's a 170% investment return. So if you had a $10,000 bankroll, you've made $17,000. You're now up to $27,000 in just 1 year. I point that out because you can still get on board for about $1 per play for a full 365 days and nights when you use promo code SM365. Check it out on my page right now. Full details there with the promo code. Also, the rest of the football season, if you want to get on board for football only, why not? The bowl games around the corner, the college football playoff, the Super Bowl, everything, college and pro combined, just $3.99 this weekend with that football special for the rest of the year. No promo code needed there. And check out the daily free plays. I posted a free college basketball play for tonight on Friday as well in the Cream City Classic. Go check that out, a free play in the Milwaukee-Portland State game. You know I'm going diving deep under the radar for that one. All right, let's look at a free play here in the Atlanta-Chicago Bowl game. Biggest total of the season, if I'm not mistaken, 247. And you know what I see? When I see a huge total, there's usually a reason. Big totals go over. These are the 2 fastest teams in the NBA. So over 247 would be the only way to play it. 2 bad defensive teams. The only pause for concern I have is that both are like in the bottom third of offensive efficiency, which isn't exactly what you want to see when you have a big over, but the pace of play and the mediocre defense should get it done here. So I look for an over 247. This total, by the way, opened as low as 240.5 in one spot, 242 in others, and it's been hit heavy. Yet the public is leaning under, as they often do. That's why playing big totals over works, because the public usually comes in on the other side. By the way, as a side in this game, I'd probably lean Atlanta -1.5. I mentioned the bad numbers overall, but Atlanta has been the more efficient offense. So if it is a shootout, which I think it will be, I think that also favors Atlanta being the more efficient offense. So Hawks and over would be my look in this one at 8 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, kind of crazy. Kind of crazy, Merrill. This early in the season, we're almost up to 250. But with these two teams, wow. I wouldn't want to be sweating out an under, though, either. It's kind of crazy.
Intensity cup game. How can I poo-hoo the cup? Game. Yeah, you get a lot of 247 NBA playoff totals, right? Teams take those games serious.
2 teams, 1 cup. Sounds exciting. All right, Andy, let's
didn't see that one coming, Andy, did you? You see a bah humbug?
I'm just saying, call me nuts. Looks like it's going to be one of those. Yes, you did. Andy, let's talk a best bet, but let's also let the folks know how many plays you got locked, loaded, ready to roll over at WagerTalk.
It's so unfair. You come in heavy with that joke, and then you're like, "Hey, Andy, go ahead and promote yourself."
The Winston Cup.
So not fair.
Oh, I love it.
5% college football best bet is up. That goes off tonight. We encourage everyone to grab that. We're 21-8 lifetime in college football. You guys know how we do it. We do 1 play per week. That's it. We're 8-4 this year and 21-8 lifetime. Number 1 ROI, number 1 winning percentage. So go grab that. We do have a 4% UFC play that is up. That card starts sadly at 3 a.m. But the best part about that is you go to sleep, you wake up, and there's money in your account when you get up. Having a great year, up 134 units in 2024, up 145 in the last 365 days. It's very, very cool doing shows with Steve because Steve and I came in at the same time, and it's a lot of fun. Seeing Steve up 170 units last 365, seeing me up 145 units last 365. So shout out to Steve. It's been really cool working with him. Let's go to Al Horford for the best bet, and we're gonna go over. Yeah, we're gonna go over 1.5 3-pointers. He's gone over in 7 straight games, averaging 6 attempts per game in those 7 games. And Washington is terrible on defense. In fact, they're 26th in 3-point defense. So pretty easy play for me. I would expect Al Horford to get a lot of open looks against this bad Washington defense. Take him just to make 2 of them at a pretty decent price.
That's an interesting game, too. I know some guys were talking about that in the chat there, Steve. I mean, the Celtics have won 7 games by at least 10 points or more. They have owned the Wizards. It really hasn't even been close. But that's, I think, the biggest side, right? 16.5, I think, is the biggest spread here tonight. And if we're being honest, it's kind of hard not to look at the Celtics here and think that they're going to run away with this thing and win as by as big as they want, unless you think the Wizards can actually keep this thing close, but the market doesn't because they keep betting it up.
Yeah, I talked about how I had the Sixers on Wednesday. The other one that kind of frustrated me this week was I had Boston on Tuesday, I believe, against the Cavs, and I thought that was a good spot. And I really felt like I kind of handicapped that game right. And I thought the Celtics would, by the way, all seriousness, take it more serious after losing the first cup game. And they did, but they gave up the big lead and they won but didn't cover. And that's just how it goes sometimes. Boston's a tricky team. They won the championship last year. They're the most talented team again this year. But, once again, they live and die by the three. So when you're laying this kind of number, if they're hitting their normal threes, they're going to win by 20. But if not, then weird things can happen. And we saw them lose a couple times last year. Now, it was later in the season, outright as double-digit favorites. So nothing surprises me. This should be a romp. If I'm not mistaken, this is probably the biggest road favorite of the season in the NBA. I don't recall seeing a 16.5, 17-point road favorite so far this year. So I guess if I'm using my over the biggest line, right, we probably should lay it with the biggest road favorite this season as well. But it's Celtics or pass for me. And real quick on Andy, Andy being up 140 some, I'm up 170. Let's just point out that Andy and I probably have not had one play that's been similar all season or different because I haven't been releasing darts or auto racing, team totals, player props. So literally, Andy and Steve Merrill probably up over 310 units combined. And I've always pointed out the importance of diversification, but this is a perfect example. Like, you don't have to choose between Andy and me. You can have the best of both worlds, Andy Lang and Steve Merrill at WagerTalk.com. But seriously, Andy's doing a great job, and he's looking at things completely different than I am. And it just shows there's multiple ways to win and diversify as well. And it's a really good example. It's cool to see that because Andy and I started over 4 years ago here doing a NASCAR show that would get about 100 to 300 views a week. And I used to think that was pretty cool. Andy don't get out of bed for 300 views no more. I'll tell you that much.
No, he does not.
Well,
no.
That was during COVID, so 300 views was awesome at that time.
It was.
That's a good point.
And it was better than when Prez did the initial show.
Yes. And it was great because everyone wore a mask. It was fantastic. Let me ask you guys this question here. The Golden State Warriors with, because I just saw that come in on the chat room. The Golden State Warriors and the New Orleans Pelicans, I thought this would have been the biggest spread, Merrill. It's 10. It hasn't moved a whole heck of a lot, but it does look like Steph, unless, Andy, you're seeing Steph Curry not going. It looks like he's probable here.